Yo, what's up guys? REAPOFF here and welcome back to another video. I have quite a bit to talk about this video. I have a Visual Studio project open. This is part of the video, but only part, I promise. I will cut to the chase for the most important things. I remember in one of my Minecraft videos recently, I talked about me being in the job hiring process or in the final steps with a job. And I want to give you an update on that. So that particular job, I was unsuccessful with. I did not get the job. In fact, out of 20 people, no one got the job. Apparently, the company was going through a hiring freeze. Now, this is not common. This is not really something you would expect from a company that's willing to hire 10 or more employees at once. So going through a hiring freeze does not cut it for me or any of the other candidates. And it was pretty much we wasted our time with that opportunity. So that's really unfortunate. However, when a door closes, another opens, and I am now employed as a full-time software developer, mainly in C# for another company. So I have a 30-minute commute to this job, there and back. So an hour total every day. And I'm very happy there. So I just completed my first week there. And I just want to let you guys know, getting a job in this field is not easy. Even for me, coding in my free time, it's not enough sometimes. You need to know your things. You need to read that job description very carefully. They do put the most important things on there. And so you need to read that job description very carefully and start researching some of those frameworks and technologies they use. Because that is imperative to your success at that company. Now, I might talk about the job a bit more later on this video, but for now, I want to talk about Skork. Now, what is Skork? It's a new project I'm working on. It is a sequel to the original Skork project. So you guys might remember that. On YouTube, on this channel, I did a variety of videos going through the progress with this project called Skork. Here's the original project. We have a basic README here, and about 11 months ago, I made this update. I made an update video and I added it to my GitHub here. Skork is put on hold for a moment. I am currently developing a few applications in my final semester. I also have plans to remake what I currently have, Skork. It was made in WinForms framework. So this is the old framework for GUI .NET applications. And so I wanted to remake it in WPF with my newfound knowledge in WPF. I will be open sourcing the GUI application of Skork. However, Skork will become a library which is not open sourced. The GUI will only interact with the Skork library. It acts as an engine, and an open source GUI is what will be open source for whoever wants to edit the layout, etc. So here we are now, 11 months later or so. So I have been working on it for about a month or so now, and I haven't made the video yet. I've been trying, honestly, but I always not end up editing it and putting it together, but I will do that finally for this one. And yeah, here's a new project. It's going to be 3 different projects. So we have the GUI implementation, the Windows-based GUI implementation of the Skork framework. The Skork framework itself, which is a private repository, that's an internal connectivity, and a web-based implementation of the Skork framework. So this one, once I learn ASP.NET MVC very well, now I know a bit of it, but I want to know it very well. Once I know it very well, I will begin work on the web-based version, and this will take priority over the GUI version, because once you do web-based, you can't get any better cross-platform than that, because your phones run the internet. Literally any other operating system runs the internet. I mean, that's why we have computers. So I will be fine to make that web-based version and do it that way. Now you might be wondering, what the hell is Skork if you've never heard of this? So Skork is a custom programming language for writing a game with rules you define. Skork allows you to test code in a visual way using sprites. You can visualize your code using primitive variables, loops, and these so-called sprites. My audience is anyone interested enough to write in a simplified programming language and visualize code in a different way. Feel free to fork this repository and make any addition, update, whatever you want. Now remember, this is the GUI implementation of the Skork framework. So here is a GUI, and here is the Skork framework right here, Skork engine library. So you reference it, and then you call specific things in that code. So for example, compiler service, I use a specific namespace in the Skork engine library, and I start using some of its classes, just like that. Now I want to show you a bit of the old Skork application. This is a Windows form-based application. I just want to show you what I did in the past. So for example, this is an int. So if I press compile, it's int I equals 4. Now if I do int I equals 3 and then like this, this should be able to compile and create an integer called I and setting its value to 3. This should work. So as you can see, it kind of parses it correctly. We still have a little bit of padding issues here, but this was the old way. This is a year-old code. And yeah, so pretty cool stuff. Get lines. See, this gets valid code lines. It gets I, it gets the equals. It skips all of the other stuff, 3 and the semicolon. So it skips all of these lines, as you can see. And yeah, this was the way I did it. And again, it's continuing in the Skork engine library. So I'm going to show you a bit of code here now. We are going to look at iSkork entity. So again, now with my newfound programming knowledge, I'm going to make this library very modular. Now, right now it's not modular in terms of I have database things within the same DLL. That's okay. I only want this to be one DLL. So if one thing breaks, I can just update one thing, you know? I don't want to make it too modular. That's a lot of maintenance. Many different projects, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is just keep everything in here. And I want to make it modular at the same time by using interfaces. So you learn in school that interfaces are like templates. They're templates for potential properties or attributes for a given class. Whenever you extend an interface or implement it, you are taking all of its methods inside and you are defining behavior for them. So for example, a iSkork entity, its fundamental properties for any Skork entity. So a Skork entity will be a sprite. It's an entity. All right. And what are fundamental properties of a Skork entity? Well, every entity has a name and a position. So it must exist on a plane, right? Its position somewhere and its name. These are fundamental properties. It doesn't describe its color or its other attributes it might have. Moving it doesn't do any of that yet. Now we have iSkork movable. This is a bit more confusing, it might be, but I'm prepared to explain it here. There's only 5 lines of code here and lots of documentation. Now, I learned on the job, this might not be the best way. Clean code does not, you shouldn't have to write comments. If your code is clean enough and easy to understand, this way you can see as much as you can of the class in one line. But however, this is a framework and other people are going to be using this framework and they're not going to see this. So I have to document it. There's no other way around it. So when you hover over things, you see a description of what it does. So that's why the comments don't really read readably unless you hover over. And that's the whole point, because no one else is going to look at this but me. So that's my design choice right there. Anyways, the line 10, it says iSkork. So anyways, iSkork movable requires an entity, and an entity, this type parameter entity, must implement an iSkork entity. Okay, so I'm requiring this particular interface for whoever wants to use it. You must implement this no matter what. That's your type parameter, and your type parameter is called entity, not T. And this is to simplify and show you these functions that you get: up, down, left, right. So an iSkork movable can move up, down, left, right, and it takes in a particular entity. Now you might wonder, once I show you the other class, why I added these attributes here. And I'm going to kind of show you why C# does it implicitly. Okay, here's where it gets weird. So I have a Skork sprite. This is an entity in Skork. Okay? It implements iSkork entity, but it also implements iSkork movable because this sprite is an entity, so it has to implement this. And it's also a movable entity, but how is it movable? It's an iSkork entity. It's only movable by that. So that's how it looks weird. It looks like I'm double referencing, but I can assure you I'm not, because if I go ahead and remove this, it's going to still compile, which sounds good, right? But now if I go ahead and rename this to name2, this should complain and say, hey, you're not implementing iSkork entity. So that's a problem. So whenever I use a member function of iSkork movable, it's going to be like, you're not actually using the method that I'm looking for, so you got to put it back. So it looks a little bit weird, but I think this is the way you do it. Okay, so let's take a look at the class. So a Skork sprite has a reference to a Skork plane. This is a reference to a singleton Skork plane. So I'm not creating many Skork planes, just one, and this is a reference to it. We have active sprite instances to count the number of sprites currently active. So for example, in our constructor down here, if you try to make, if at any point you try to create a Skork sprite and your active sprite instances are equal to the maximum, we are going to throw a Skork sprite overflow exception. Okay, and I'm going to write in there, exceeded the maximum number of active sprites, and then I will list it to the user. All right, and then here are instance methods. So again, I remember over here I said it might be weird why I require a type parameter here that's of iSkork entity, because you see how I implement a Skork sprite? It's implemented as a member function, right? Public void. So it's a member function. So why would I need to use entity here? All I could do is write this keyword, right? So I talked about C# doing this implicitly. Every member function has implicitly included a this pointer in one of the parameters, so you have access to that. For example, you can always write this inside of a member function. However, if I write this inside of static, it's not there. You see that? It's not there because it's not implicit in a static constructor. Likewise, it's not implicit in a static, what's it called? A static constructor or field, or not field, or function. Anyways, the reason I do this is for future entities that can interact with others. So watch this. I first check if the entity that you give me is of Skork sprite. If it is a Skork sprite entity, change its position by 1 unit up. Now here's another thing. In other entities, let's say I have an entity that's a keyboard. This keyboard, if you move up on the keyboard, it moves a Skork sprite up 2 units. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I can have any property I want because I don't implicitly do it. I do it explicitly. I say, give me the entity. This is like how it is in C#. It is technically explicit to the compiler, but when we write our code in this environment, we can write this anywhere in these member functions. It's implicit, but it's technically in there. It's passed as a reference in the parameter list. So we're good. We're good on that. The reason I do it explicitly is for that reason. Again, I could modify other entities using a member function's up function. So I can reference 2 different entities this way. So I can, of course, do this in here, and I can do entity, or sprite in this case. Now I can also do if entity is of keyboard or Skork keyboard, whatever, or whatever entity I make in the future. This is the modularity of Skork. Everything is interface based. So if it's interface based, anything that implements it becomes a unit of that. I don't have to update anything else. It works around these interfaces, and so that I have the modularity. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. I do want to end off with this bit. Again, I said I did start my full-time position, so being in front of the computer for so long, to come home after solving problems in my day job, to come home and solve more problems and invent things for this new custom programming language, you know, it's very taxing. I know I'm a very passionate person. You guys know I'm a very passionate person about programming, but there is a limit. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Probably within a few weeks or so, I'll get the groove of things. I might start programming again at home, playing games, or, you know, start getting back into using my computer, because at the moment I don't really use it anymore, since, yeah, I'm basically on a computer all day, so I don't want to go home and then use the computer again. But this is probably just a phase. I might be, you know, once the weather gets worse, I'm bound to be using the computer, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna wait a little bit. And anyways, I want to wait a little bit, so maybe I just start working on the web-based version of Skork, because that will be a lot cooler, and, you know, everyone can use it. I don't have to say, you know, do you have Windows? Oh, you don't have Windows? Sorry, you can't use it. That's too limiting in this day and age. It's got to be web-based. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Peace out now.